What's up? This is your boy Nameless, Kenyan artist, real name David. I've been in the industry for about 13, 14 years. Kenyan artists, proud to be a Kenyan artist. I'd say that I'm also a father of 2 kids and a husband to a beautiful wife called Wahoo, who's also a musician. And and I'm doing my thing here. All right, I think the first place like any other kid, from way back, when we were kids, we all want to be musicians. So that was just a normal dream. Unaona Michael Jackson on TV, you're like, I want to be like Michael Jackson or whatever, dancing and stuff. But I'd say the first time I really thought about being a musician, I think I was about 19 years old. I remember writing a letter to myself, like two pages, and I still have that letter I wrote to myself. I was kind of like, I think I was going through some depressing time. You know how sometimes you have the ups and downs. You're confused about your life. When I read that letter, it shows, the confusion, the confused state I was in at that time. Like, what do I want to do when I grow up? Why do I feel people misunderstand me? Like any other teenager, I was actually 19, so I was a teenager. And the funny thing is, at some point, I drew because, as an artist, so I drew myself like performing, and I remember having this dream, and I said in the letter, I was like, I wish there'd be a day I can be singing and people would be singing my songs. So I have like a picture of, me in the stage. I'm like, I wish that can make me feel much better than I'm feeling right now. And then I said, I actually told God, I wish I can meet a beautiful wife in the same letter and have some cool kids, and I think I would be happy with that, like being able to perform my music to people who are loving it, have a wife, a loving wife, and kids, and I actually said cool kids. So when I look back at that letter, it's amazing to me because I see a lot of those dreams did actually come true, So I'd put it at when I was 19. That's the first time that I actually dreamt about being a musician or being an artist. I got to record for the first time, I think, when I was basically 20 years old. I got in the studio, and at that time there were no FM stations, so it was only KBC. And at that time I wasn't called Nameless. I had very different names. I kept changing my name because I didn't know how people should call me. Mara, I switched my name. Mara, I'm the mechanic. So I go on stage with a overall. The next time I change, That time I did, I think, almost a year or 2 of shows without being paid, because at that time there was not that much value towards local music. So you go and you're being put in you're begging the promoter, can I perform? Yana kuangalia and I say, okay, if we have a space, we might put you in on to perform. So if you're lucky, the guy will give you 5 minutes to try and do your thing. You go out there, you perform. Of course, those Kenyans, they don't know what you're doing. You're tripping on stage, you're messing up. So actually, the funny thing is, during one of those shows that I was messing up is the time I actually met my wife. I remember it was at the Grand. It was for one of these university pageants or something, and she was in the crowd. And after I performed there, very bad performance. And when I was sitting back, reflecting on how bad the performance was, she taps my shoulder and she's like, yo, what's up, man? That was a nice show, And, it was quite a touching experience. And I looked at her and said, she's a nice chick, And from there, mambo ikakuwa laini. So, that was the time we started, that's how the entertainment industry was then, People didn't really appreciate the local music at that time, So after that, FM stations came. I got into a competition. Long story to cut it short. I won the competition on radio. Ilikuwa Capital FM. And that's when I did Mega Rider. In fact, I remember, I always tell guys, when I was writing my song Mega Rider before, when I was still trying to come up with lyrics, I remember I think I was writing about Mega Rider. When I was writing it, that's the time K Shaka came up with Tafsiri. So me, I'm trying to write, a song, my own song, Mega Rider. I think it was Mega Rider, one of those songs. And when I had Tafsiri, Tafsiri is like, Tafsiri here, that beat, that word, I was like, man, I cannot compete with this, And I got so demoralized, I just put my phone down. I put my pen down. I'll never forget that. I was in Mamlaka A62, that used to be my room. I put my pen down and said, you cannot compete with this, this is the ish now, Left, I didn't think about writing music for another like 3 months. That's when I picked my pen again and said, actually, you know what? Let me not try to be like them. Let me do my own thing, Let me give my own story, And that's when I began writing that song, Mega Rider, and got lucky enough to get it recorded by Ted Josiah, who also did Tafsiri Hii. So you can imagine, the same guy who I'm listening to, who has done a big track like Tafsiri Hii, a year later ended up recording Mega Rider. So it was a big thing for me. The feeling of me hearing Mega Rider on radio for the first time, I don't think I'll ever feel that feeling again. The music, even now, and I released music 15 years later. That was a big feeling to me, like, oh my God, that's the song I recorded is being played and being introduced as Nameless's new track. Mega Rider was a big feeling. Anyway, after that, I got into doing I worked with different producers. The next guys I went to work with was Ogopa DJs. And that was when there was a new revolution of music. Guys were like, okay, we now want to have more danceable music, because before it was more like listening music, but it came to a time when guys were like, we need music that's performable, because we realized at that time, sales was not good. There was no other way to really make money. So your songs have to be performable. So I looked for these guys called Ogopa DJs and went and found them. And we recorded. And I remember when I was meeting them, that's when Mr. Googs and Vinnie Banton were doing their track. Yeah, I'm like talking to Lucas here, then I'm hearing some guys there, okay, it's okay, okay. So I'm like, who's that guy? Who's that guy in the studio? So this guy called Vinnie Banton, man, he's going to be taking over this town, I'm like, okay, whatever, So that's when I think they were doing Githurai 44. And then, I talked to Lucas and we worked on something from there on. And that's when I got a chance to drop tracks like Majitu, Manaless, Ninanoki. I hooked up with Amani. I was like, there's a chick who sang this song, and I think we can work together with her. She came to campus, we came up with the chorus, and then, we recorded. That was a cool track that managed to get me out across to Uganda and Tanzania. And for an artist, when you're called into another country by your music, it's a very good feeling. Unajua, that's why I keep saying when Nani says kuvuka boda, it's because of that feeling. When Ujagwa says kuvuka boda, it's because it's very good as an artist to feel that not only do your countrymen like your music, but people across continents, across the borders like your music. So Ninanoki was the one that took me across borders. And then, started doing regional music, kept doing it. Juju, that was my first video. Juju was my first video. I put a lot of pressure because I was like, every time you're doing something for the first time, it's pressure, So I remember telling Lucas, this is a lot of pressure, so I need to invest a lot of money in it. And that time it was a lot of money, I think I spent like 150,000 then. That long time, that was a lot of money, It had cages, I don't know what, cranes, But I was like, it's a first video, I don't want to let guys down, So Juju that was a fun video to shoot. That was the first time I learned how to edit also. I was watching the editor, how he's editing, and I'm like, okay, even me, I think I can do this. And I got interested in beginning to do things like shooting. Anyway, after all that, released my album, got to work with people like, Big Pin, Issa, you know, we did great things, you know, Red Sun. On the other side was Kinawaire. You know, the industry was just bubbling, you know. So I think for me, after that, my next challenge was now, after all that, I remember getting married. I remember when I was telling them I'm getting married, instead of congratulating me, the management were like, "What? You can't get married, man. You know, we've just started, man. Yes, that's not good for business." I'm like, surely, man, a man has to get married at some point, you know. So they're like, "Can you get married in secret?" I'm like, you know, marriage is marriage, man. So, you know, after getting married, I remember trying to think, how am I going to reinvent myself, you know, as now a married artist, as opposed to before I was just kijana kwa hadharani tu, anarandaranda, kama as Lenny says nowadays. And whenever an artist is trying to like reinvent, it's normally like a struggle to find out, you know, which direction to go. So I remember trying out a few things, and finally settling down on, you know, a slower song, slower direction, more mature direction. And that's when I got into doing Sinzia, which at that point, you know, was different from what I used to do before, which were mainly party songs. But it was a more zouk what. So I moved camp. I started working with RK on the my new content. Yeah, it was quite an interesting journey. I'd say Sinzia really introduced me to the continent, because through Sinzia and the tracks that followed up, I got into Channel O. I got an award or two from that, and I remember that was through Sinzia. So, you know, did my thing, did a couple of tours with this new album, and it was an interesting journey. Then come now and said, I've done all that, and what more can I do in the industry?